We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they could send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No. Get off his fucking neck! The man makes you know he can't fucking breathe! The man makes you know We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more.
Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. If it's Thursday, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, a show where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. I, of course, am your hostess with the mostest. The meter does many things, and with me, as is usually the case, I've got Slowbake here with me to get into all the shit talking and shenanigans, the fight announcements and fuckery that has trickled out the MMA pipeline since we saw you wonderful folks last. Before we get into all that, though, first off, how you doing over there, brother?
Doing pretty fucking good. Having fun watching Max Holloway play with some burnt peanut. I got some fucking fights to talk about here in a minute. Tired as
Hell
hell,
yeah.
but we'll fucking get it going.
I agree with all of that. Absolutely. So, with that being said, we are going to kick things off the way that we like to around here. A little bit of news and recent events, fight announcements, fight cancellations, official rumor confirmations and denials, all the relevant things in the fight world we feel worthy of you fine folks' attention. So that being said, we do unfortunately this week have to start by jumping back to last week to talk about something that happened because it was very, very last minute. Literally on Friday before weigh-ins happened, the Jiyoung Lee versus Gabriel Bolaños fight got called off. Lee had issues with the weight cut and had to be hospitalized temporarily. No word on if they're going to try and remake that fight or what they're going to have, go forward from there. Bolaños is obviously ready to go, so they're probably going to try and look to get him in a short notice fight on one of the next couple weeks upcoming cards, you would think. But looks like Lee's going to have to take a little bit of time off and recover from that. That being said, we do have some interesting news going forward here. Cub Swanson officially confirmed this afternoon that the fight at UFC 327 against Nate Landwehr is officially going to be his final fight. He will be retiring once that fight is done, win, lose, or draw. Coming into that fight in a couple weeks, he sits as of right now with a record of 30-14 as a pro and is already in the Hall of Fame in the fight wing. So we knew this was coming. We weren't sure when, but we kind of knew this day was approaching quickly. So we now know that UFC 327 in Miami is going to be Cub Swanson's final match. That said, we got a couple of interesting announcements here. Got a whole bunch of them just this afternoon. The first one, UFC Vegas 115 coming up in a couple weeks from now, April 25th. The main event has officially been confirmed. We were talking about this earlier. This rumor's been circulating for a couple of weeks now. UFC officially confirmed it yesterday. Yusuf Zalal versus Aljamain Sterling for the main event of UFC 115 back in the Apex. A couple weeks later, May 16th, UFC Vegas 117. Arnold Allen versus Melkaziel Costa for the main event. Another one, the rumors have been swirling for a couple weeks now, but the UFC confirmed both of them this week officially. Doing an interview yesterday, Rainier de Ritter said that the cut on his body to stay at 185 is just getting too hard, and trying to build further cardio on top of the big weight cut that he's making to get down to 185 is just too much at this point, much like Robert Whitaker said just a couple of weeks ago. So it looks like both Bobby Knuckles and Rainier de Ritter are both officially heading to 205, because they both said that, their time at 205 was good, but that weight cut as they're getting older is too much for them to maintain and be able to keep getting better as a fighter. Both of them are now going to be moving up to 205. So light heavyweight is getting real interesting again here in the very near future. Kind of a weird one over on the other side of the house here. It was confirmed earlier this week that Francis Ngannou has officially been released from his contract with the PFL. And then I believe it was about 48 hours later, after they confirmed that he was officially released, he has signed on to fight Felipe Lenz on the Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano card that is going on Netflix later on this year. So definitely not in a bad position here. I do think this actually looks a little worse for the PFL than it does for Francis, especially considering Francis is the reason that there is a PFL MENA, Middle East, North Africa. He is the reason that PFL Africa is a thing. Like, Francis Ngannou got the PFL into a lot of places that the UFC said that they wanted to go originally when he first signed with them. And now he is a free agent, officially speaking, and fighting on the MVP MMA event that is Gina Carano versus Ronda Rousey that is going on Netflix. So there will be eyes on it for damn sure. Going to be interesting to see how that one plays out going forward. Kind of in that same fucking last minute announcements that we just got literally today, May 9th, Newark, New Jersey, UFC 328 will be headlined by none other than Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland, with the co-main event being Alexander Volkov versus Waldo Costa Cortez. Or Cortez Acosta, excuse me. That's going to be a real interesting one. They announced a couple of other fights that are kind of meh for that card, but could be very, very interesting. The next one that they dropped was just this afternoon for May 30th, will officially be UFC Macau, going back overseas again. That one will be, I don't remember if they said it was headliner or it's just going on the card, because I literally just grabbed this before we started live. Song Yadong versus Davison Figueiredo is the biggest fight that they have announced for that card so far. I'm hoping that's going to be the main event, because that would be a fucking fantastic fight in my opinion. But then we got a couple of interesting ones here. After the lackluster, I think would be the best way to describe the lackluster announcement last weekend of the UFC Freedom 250 fucking White House card. Um, that neither John Jones or Conor McGregor would be fighting on that card. John Jones basically had a public fucking meltdown over on Twitter, talking about how he's been negotiating for a fight with the UFC for the White House card for the last couple of months, and that now Dana's just making up stories that he was always in contention to headline that card, blah, blah, blah. And that if Dana actually believes that his hip is so terrible that he couldn't compete and he can't trust John to potentially fight on a White House or a card as big as the White House card was supposed to be, that John Jones wants his release from the UFC. Um, it is not very often that John Jones says something that I agree with, but this is one of those things. I think if he wants to go play prima donna somewhere else, cut his fucking ass loose and let's see if he really wants to be the baddest man on the planet and go chase down Francis Ngannou now that he's a free agent and there's no organization that could stop that fight from happening because they are both free agents if John gets released. So if the big duck really wants to put his money where his mouth is, he would continue campaigning for his release from the UFC, and if he gets it, go fight Francis Ngannou anywhere, under any rule set, anywhere in the world, doesn't matter. That's the fight that was supposed to really determine who was the baddest man on the planet so long ago before everything got all kinds of fucked up. Now we potentially got that fight as an option again. So let's look towards that if we're actually going to realistically consider John getting released, which I agree he should. That being said, UFC did some official roster cleanup this week, as they usually do after a weekend worth of fights. We got 5 interesting names released from the UFC officially this week. Chris Moutinho, which we all kind of had a feeling was coming. Excuse me. Phil Rowe, which is not one that I necessarily had on my radar, but I understand. Eric Silva, kind of get that one. Gavin Tucker, who has been retired for almost a year now at this point. They finally officially released him from the UFC. And then the last one was the weird one. They released AJ Cunningham, who I just talked about week before last, had an injury that he said was basically going to end his MMA career. The UFC released him from his contract, and then he announced on social media that he's taking part in some weird fight circus-esque kind of bullshit going on. So it's kind of hard to tell what the fuck is actually going on with AJ at this point, but he is no longer in the UFC officially speaking. So there is that. That being said, that is what I've got for news this week. Do you have anything over there that I missed, Christian? I know you said a couple of them earlier that I did not have yet.
Off the top of my head, you just remember those other announcements that I'd seen, like Bilal Muhammad versus Gabe Bonfim, I think was one of them. I can't remember the other one. That was it. And I just seen those couple posts.
The Bobby Green one.
Oh,
Bobby Green
yeah.
versus Jeremy Stevens.
Yeah, for whatever reason, they re-signed Jeremy Stevens for that. Yeah, fun. It seems fun though. I mean, for us hardcore fans, it would
Right,
be fun
yeah,
seeing those two go at it. But
could be an
weird.
interesting car crash, but yeah, definitely a weird fucking matchmaking for sure. Well, with that being said, that'll bring us to the point here. If you've been watching combat sports as long as some of us have been watching combat sports, you start to learn what you like to watch, when it comes on, and how to watch it. And eventually you start to develop a set of blinders to everything else, and you start to lose the forest for the trees, if you will. Luckily for us here on the show, we've got ourselves a bona fide young person that's out there diligently and delicately fingering the pulse of the MMA world to help keep us abreast of all the names that are going to be big names before they are big names in a little segment that we call Slows, Cans, and Contenders.
Appreciate you, brother. I'll start off with the trash so far for this week. Not the worst card by far, but it is a hangover. We've got some fights to be had that'll be fun. Luan Lacerda is definitely one of those I would throw in the garbage this weekend. Andre Feely. There's another one. They've been Andre Feely's been around for a hot minute, but he's been back and forth the majority of his whole career. You got one of those ladies fight. Well, hopefully, the ladies fights will turn out to be decent, right? But I don't have high hopes for either one of them that are on this card. You could maybe say the Bia Mosquita could be a contender, but bantamweight's also such a weird situation, and she's not really that young at 34. She's only had the 6 fights MMA wise. Still a lot of questions.
Yeah,
See how
that's
she
that's a
does.
softball matchup for goddamn sure, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I am
Because
more on the contender fence,
yeah,
with her.
Justin
So
and I watched Bea Mosquita's last 2 or 3 fights in the LFA before she came over to the UFC. This is absolutely a softball pitch to try and get her some quote unquote UFC experience. This is not a legitimate fight for her.
yeah. Um, but the Sam Hughes Pierre Rodriguez fight, I would throw Sam Page. She goes out there, she tries to fight. She can make them somewhat fun. She's not the greatest fighter in the world, even though she's tough. Pierre Rodriguez, though, she's shown that she is also not a very good fighter, and she's also a dirty fighter. And I just don't think that one's going to be a great watch. You got Iwan Kutalaba's ass you could throw on the garbage. A big fight. This is one of those big ones. This is a obligation fight. Like both dudes should already have been out of the UFC a while ago, but they're still around and they're really old and they're not good fighters. And this isn't going to be a great fight. Brad Tavares versus Eric Anders. That is literally the definition of middleweight. Like it is potentially going to be a boring slog for 15 minutes. It could be a sloppy ass bar fight that could be half ass interesting. But obligations. Like I said, they kept Tavares' ass around. They still kept Anders' ass around, so they're throwing them to each other because there's nobody else to throw them to because they ain't worth much of a damn. This is a weird one. And then you have to do it, even if he's in the main event. Josh Emmett, dude's 1-4 in his last 5 fights, and he's 41 years old. Brother has shown multiple times that he was never going to get towards the title. He had the one kind of opportunity with an interim belt against Yair, and that did not go his way whatsoever. And then we saw Yair, what, twice now get his ass whooped by Volk, just like we've seen Diego get his ass whooped twice by Volk now. So yeah, Josh Emmett, no chance in hell. There's just no. They're literally like him still going is on his own accord. Good on you for still making money if you want to keep putting yourself through that pain and the torture at that age. I mean, but Jesus Christ, man, what else are you doing it for other than the money? Because you're never going to get towards the title, and he's probably just going to lose this one as well. And that puts you even further back. He's just so far away from it, and you need a lot more than a 10-foot pole to get his ass anywhere near it. Either the stuff that's on the fence, I mean, we did mention Mosquito. Maybe you could mention she's on the fence because she's undefeated. We need some excitement in these ladies' divisions, but I like the Oral and Curtis fight. I think that one could be fun. That's one of the fights on this card that could. But we've seen Chris Curtis also be in some boring decisions. Oral may miss weight, and this fight may not even happen. So that was another mention I wanted to throw out there. Like this dude has had some weight issues, and I think this fight is happening at welterweight, which threw me off even more because Oral last fight was supposed to be against Brian Battle, I think. And then Battle missed fucking weight. That's what got him cut. That fight didn't happen. And then they threw somebody else Oral but he still fought at middleweight. Like it was just, I think, weeks after the fact last year, and now he's going back down to welterweight. So weight issues worry me here. Will we even get to see this fight? But if both dudes stay standing, they've shown that they can stand and bang. This could be a damn fun fight. Yeah, you got the Belagioki and Souza fight. Yeah, Manuel Souza. Souza making his debut. You got some knockout potential here. You 13-1, 8 wins by fucking knockout. And Oki, he's 1-2 in his last three fights. He lost to Chris Duncan there. He lost to Mason Jones. So those are some tough ass dudes that are probably going to keep working their way up in that lightweight division, it seems. I mean, shit, Chris Duncan's getting himself a main event against Hanato Moicano coming up. So let's fucking go for that, Scott. But there's still potential there with Oki. This might be one of those fun fights. The two young guys with some knockout potential. We might see some fun here. So I put that on the fence. And then Charles Johnson. They always root for the Missouri guys. This guy, right? How fucked up is it that he has the knockout victories over Joshua Van and Lonier Kavanaugh, and we sit here where we are with the flyweight division right now with Joshua Van being the champion, Lonier Kavanaugh just beat the hell out of Brandon. Like Lonier dog walked Brandon Moreno and put himself in position that he's probably knocking on the door next after the Tyra and Van fight here. I mean, he's probably going to have to fight Pantoja. Like, I would think when Pantoja's healthy, that is going to be the situation they're going to have to do, like Lonier, Kavanaugh, Pantoja, and then that'll be the next one. I'm like, geez, man, holy hell. And Charles Johnson could be right there. He's been so active, too. He's only been in the UFC for a few years, and the dude's had like 14 fights in the UFC. He's just lost some that he shouldn't have lost. The dude shows up when he shows up, and he's like Kevin Holland in that aspect. He's not as bad, though. That's where I'm saying he's still on the fence for me. He's probably going to put on an exciting fight this weekend if he gets himself a win. It also puts him right back in the same damn spot. He beats Bruno Silva. He's floating right around the top 15 again, and he might be able to fucking make himself somehow find a run. Get the vengeance. Fucking beat Van, maybe. I mean, like I said, you root for the Missouri guys, but he might give us an exciting moment more than anything this weekend. So he's on the fence. Will he truly have that title run? Most likely not. Is he going to give us a fun fight this weekend? Most likely. There's that. The actual true contenders, you got obviously the kid in the main event. We'll just start with him. Kevin Vallejos. I've talked about him for the past year or two now. He lost to John Silva on the Contender Series. Other than that, kid's never lost. He's looked pretty good since he came into the UFC. Now, once the competition started stepping up, the finishes started dying off. But at the same time, he's looked impressive. He knocking out Giga Chikadze in his last fight at the very least to me. Like Giga had dropped off a little bit too, so I mean it is what it is. But he's looked good. He did come out with a finish in his last fight. Um, I'm excited to see him get this test. Like Josh Emmett's another gatekeeper kind of dude for the featherweight division, and it'll give Vallejos his opportunity to start climbing up there like we've already seen Silva do. Um, Oh, I'm excited for that one. You got Hetcher Sosa. I think I could be wrong, but I think this is the guy that had a great finish on the Contender Series last year, and then Dana White himself was like, "Yeah, make sure everybody remembers your name or some shit." Gave the kid a chance, opportunity. I could be wrong here, but I think that's the name. Um, Getting an easy opportunity against Luan Lacerda. Got some knockout potential. We'll see how he does in the debut. You got another young kid, 23 years old, with some knockout potential that's undefeated, Marwan Rahiki. So I just throw those young kids out making their debuts. I always like to shine the light on them. We'll see how they do in their debuts, see if they really come out, and bang. Hey, you got another Smith. We had Jacoby Smith the other week and continued to look fantastic. Now we got Eli Smith. I don't think they're related worth a damn. But Eli Smith, I've been high on that kid as well. 23 years old, 9-1, got serious grappling ability and knockout power. He's pretty damn good with the wrestling, no different than Jacoby. Taking on Su Young Yu, who's also looked decent. He's won 5 fights in a row. Uh, he's got some serious potential. All of them by knockout. This might be one of those electric fights on the card. And then you got Steven Asplin. I love this fucking dude. We got some excitement for fucking heavyweight. We got a fucking hell of a character. Absolutely loved him on the Contender Series, getting a knockout victory, and then talking about wanting to suck on Dana's toes. He'd do anything to get in the UFC. Now, when I heard that, couldn't fucking stop, laughing my ass off. Good lord, yeah, the dude, the titty flopping, like getting the finish, the titty flopping. I love it. Shouting out to the fat guys, being one of them most of my life. He's just a dude's dude. After his UFC debut and getting the win, he you know is very motivational in my opinion. The same way that Patty was early in his career after the victory, and then he lost some of the humbleness, and we lost some of the love for Patty pretty quick. So rooting for this guy. He made the statement on media day. I saw that clip. He's fighting for the fat boys again this weekend. He's fighting a dude that looks like the fucking Rock, right? Vitor Petrino's fucking ripped. If he winds up getting that win, it'll be good for him. Bump him up in the rankings. Well, maybe not rankings yet, but it'll get him fucking real close. It's only 30 dudes. There's 30 dudes at heavyweight. It doesn't take long at this point to get to the top 15. And then Jillian. I want to finish off with Jillian. She's got a serious opportunity to get into a title spot. I do think Whaley is going to probably come back down. Mackenzie Dern's going to have to defend her title against Whaley, and she's going to get her ass fucking whooped. Whaley's going to get the belt back, and then sayonara to Jillian's title opportunities then. But I love her. She's been a badass. Her nickname is Savage for a reason. She will probably be one of those girls that would go like 5 rounds, like we saw Lauren Murphy go with Valentina. She'd get her ass whooped, but she's gonna fucking stay in that fight somehow because she's extremely talented and she's got a lot better with her striking too. So like if she can't win the exchanges with her grappling against Whaley, and Whaley keeps it standing, she would at least fare better than she used to. I think she could put on a damn exciting fight. It'd be fun to fucking see. She'd get her ass beat. But if she gets to fight Mackenzie Dern, no, holy shit, Jillian's becoming champion. Let's go. So I'm excited for Jillian this weekend. Amanda Lemo, she's had so many rough moments. That chick has shown she can knock girls out. She can submit them like it's nothing. But she's almost 40 years old now. I think she's 38. And then we've also seen short little shit like Jessica Andrade choke her out standing. So Amanda Lemos has had some rough moments and rough setbacks. I think the grappling and everything that Jillian poses, and like I said, how much better she's gotten with her striking, she's got a serious chance. She might have to be a grind fight, even if Lemos is older. It might have to be a grinded out fight for Jillian, but Jillian gets it. She's right up there. There's not really anybody else in line at that point. So, knock, knock. Move on over, Dern. Get your ass out of the way one way or another. One of these girls is coming to take your spot. I know TJ's not here. Sure he'd agree with most of the trash that I had to say. Maybe not all the young kids, but he always looks forward to seeing the debuters. He just doesn't give grace to them until they've actually done something. That's what I'm here for. But what do you got for me, brother? Wrap her on up.
So it's kind of a weird position that we're in right now because last weekend was technically a quote unquote numbered event, formerly a pay-per-view, but it really didn't feel like it. That card left a lot to be desired. And then coming into this week, this is why we call them hangover cards. The cards usually on both sides before and after the big quote unquote numbered cards or pay-per-views are usually filled to the fucking brim with what we like to call our contractual obligation matches. The UFC is legally required by contract to offer every fighter on their roster at least 3 fights every calendar year. Sometimes those people say yes and the fight wasn't actually intended to be made. It was just an offer. Sometimes they say yes and that fight is a fight that should be made, but there's nowhere to fucking put it. So a lot of those type of fights that aren't the best fights or aren't fights that really have a lot of potential to them all generally get lumped into these fight night cards on either side of the numbered events, which is why we call them hangover cards. this is another great example also of what we talked about last weekend. The UFC does great on the road, bringing in fighters with ties to the area that the card's taking place, whether it's in another state or whether it's overseas. Generally speaking, the UFC does great about keeping local representation on the card. And then last week we're in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena, and there's like 250 fighters that live in Las Vegas now, so that they can utilize the UFC PI and be there in case a short notice fight gets called. Had a fight fall out and had plenty of other options that just didn't get put on last week's card. Now we're still in Vegas this weekend, but we're over in the Apex in the smaller, arena, smaller setup, and we've got a bunch of fights that just aren't really terribly exciting realistically. Now obviously there's a lot of potential on this card because there's a lot of people making debuts or making like their first or second appearances in the UFC, but realistically, as far as star power or name recognition goes, this card is another one that leaves a lot to be desired. Now don't get me wrong, there's still some good matchups on this card. The main card itself as a whole looks pretty fucking interesting. We get to see if there's anything left of Ian Kutalaba, because Omar Sy is going to try and give him the fucking business. He might not be a world breaker, but he's definitely got quite a bit of potential in him. And then we've seen Ian Kutalaba start to essentially either plateau or head down the other side of his career at this point. So we'll see how that one plays out. I agree. Andre Fili versus Delgado, this one's kind of hard to read, man. This one could be, a real quick, crazy fucking finish. This could be a grindy 15 minutes. Both of these dudes haven't had the greatest of luck lately, but both are fairly well-rounded fighters, in my opinion. So it could still be an interesting matchup. Um, I'm very curious if we're actually going to see the Chris Curtis versus Miktabek Oralbai fight. Chris Curtis, folks might have forgotten, has had trouble making weight himself in the past. Two out of his last four or two out of his last five fights, he's missed weight for himself as well. Not to mention his bullshit antics with Sean Strickland running in the fucking cage and bum rushing a fucking fighter not that long ago. Like, Chris Curtis has been more outside the cage bullshit than actually in the cage earning his fucking paycheck for a hot minute now, and it's kind of showed in his performances. Oralbai has absolutely had some problems on the scale here and there, but talent wise, he hasn't really shown as many hiccups, in my opinion, as Curtis has. But the scale very well could be the biggest opponent for both of these gentlemen come tomorrow. So we will find out tomorrow afternoon if we even get to see this fight. There's a legitimate chance that both of these dudes fucking blow through weight and the whole fight gets pulled before it ever actually gets confirmed. So we'll see how it plays out. I am very curious about some of these fights on the undercard. Um, Not so much the Bea Mosquito fight. She's, like I said earlier, she's getting a fucking softball just so that she can get some ring time experience in the Apex. Get the comfortable level, a little more assertive, so that way when they start giving her a push, she's not so flustered about things. Um, Balaji Oki versus Manuel Sosa has me very, very curious. Um, Manuel Sosa has basically made all of the rounds on the pro level in what is their equivalent of the Contender Series. He did the Bellator Championship Series, which was their recruiting thing. He did the PFL Challenger Series, which is their version of it. Then he came and he did the Contender Series, and he won on all of these. But now the UFC has picked him up, and they give him Balaji Oki for his UFC debut. Oki's not a world breaker yet, but Oki is very well rounded and very capable in all aspects of the fight. So this very well could be legitimately a good test for Sosa here. But if you look at his fucking resume, the only L he has on his pro career is against Archie fucking Colgan, who is a fucking all-American wrestler over in PFL now, formerly Bellator. Everything else is all fucking green W's. So Sosa comes in with some fucking good shit on his resume here. Balaji Oki's fairly competent, in my opinion, as well, though. So it could be a very interesting matchup. I don't have a lot of knowledge personally about Hector Sosa or Luan Lacerda, but I have heard several people whose opinions I respect talk very highly about both of these gentlemen, knowing that this fight was coming up this weekend. So we definitely need some new blood in the UFC Bantamweight is already fucking crazy as it is, but if you throw in two more guys like this that both have good potential, that makes everything that much more exciting. So I'm always curious to see how the new guys do, especially when you got, a lot of folks talking about them who have been following their careers. That being said, um, I love Jillian Robertson. I fucking love Savage. She is the fucking best throat cuddle dealer there is in the UFC, in my opinion. But like Chris mentioned here, her future really, even if she gets a spectacular performance finish against Lemos this weekend, isn't really in her hands. Her future, 100%, regardless of what happens on Saturday, is going to be determined by two things: Wei Li Zhang and Wei Li Zhang. Um, if Wei Li decides that she's going to stick around at 125 and try and work her way back up, knowing that Valentina only really has so much longer to compete, and when Valentina goes, that division belongs to Wei Li. There's no fucking doubt about it. But until then, the bullet reigns supreme. So now it comes down to figuring out, is Wei Li really going to stay up there so that she can just take over 125 when Valentina leaves? Or is she going to do what pretty much all of the rest of us assume that she's going to do? And now that she went up to 125, tripped, she's going to come back down to 115, take her fucking belt back from Mackenzie Dern with the greatest of fucking ease. And then that leaves Robertson kind of hanging in the wings for at least another fight or two here, at which point her versus Wei Li could be real interesting in a whole bunch of different ways. But I would also still favor Wei Li in those matchups, even as much as I like Jillian. So, on one hand, a big performance this weekend can absolutely cement her in the conversation for the title. No doubt about it. She should be there already with the run that she's been on. But if she takes out Lemos, who has had a title shot and tripped before, that puts her right on the fucking cusp, in my opinion. And if Wei Li stays at 125, I think Jillian would absolutely mop the fucking canvas with Mackenzie Dern, and then her Ruby reign begins. But that 100%, without a doubt in my mind, depends entirely on what Wei Li determines that she's going to do next. And when we get to the big one, I mean, Josh Emmett is very much the Cowboy Cerrone of featherweights at this point. He doesn't care who the opponent is, how much notice you give him, where on the fucking planet the fight is taking place. When they call Josh Emmett, he says yes and he shows up. You cannot take that away from him. The problem is that, much like Cowboy Cerrone, when the biggest lights are on him, he tends to trip over his own dick the hardest. When he's in the apex on a co-main event or a main card opener, he is usually fucking spectacular. But then you give him big time performances like main events or, interim title shots, and he tends to stand on his dick with both feet. I love that he's still doing the damn thing because he has shown that he is still very capable. If Emmett connects with a clean shot, I don't know that there's a 45er that could stay on their fucking feet. The problem is that he is another one of those guys who has not accepted the fact that Father Time is undefeated. Fighting is a young man's sport, and at 41 years old, he's not getting faster. Yeah, the power is still there, but Mike Tyson said it best: the power is always there. Power is the last thing to go. Vallejos, he's on a hell of a run for a young guy, but if he takes out Josh Emmett this weekend, he's in the big leagues. Like, there is no going backwards from this. This is what the levels look like. When you get to Josh Emmett, if you beat him, it's only ranked guys from here on out. There's no more nobodies. There's no more softball matches. Now you got to sing for your fucking supper every goddamn time. I don't know if Vallejos is ready for that yet. I think he looked pretty good in his last couple fucking matches, but I am not 100% convinced that he is ready for the top 15 yet. Granted, this will literally show us exactly that. But going into this, I'm inclined to think that unless he does something spectacular, the old man can fucking wait him out. Emmett's got enough gas tank to go 25 minutes. We've seen it multiple fucking times. And he's got a good enough skill set where he's fairly competent on his feet. He's competent on the ground. There is nowhere where you can just dog walk Josh Emmett. But he's got a chin that can be touched. And that's the bad part. if Vallejos can find that magic shot that just gets the button, everything changes real quick going forward. Come Tuesday matchmaker meetings for this young man. We'll see, though. We'll see.
Appreciate you, brother. I think we did it about justice. Hopefully, some of the fights turn out pretty damn good for us.
Hope so for damn sure. So, that being said, this is normally the point where TJ takes over and tells us all sorts of fun stuff, but TJ is not here because life happens. So, I'm going to cover all this shit. So, this will bring us to the only portion of the show that does require its own individual disclaimer, if you will. Tapology.com in no way, shape, or form supports, sponsors, or endorses the I'm No Joe podcast. Yet. That being said, Tapology does give you the option to go onto their website, make a free account, and make fantasy-style MMA picks like we do here on the show. They even let you make groups. So we made one. It's called I'm No Bookie, all one word, or Group 965, however you need to find it. The group is open. You are welcome and encouraged. Make yourself an account, join the group, and then let us know who you are, and we will hold your picks accountable with our picks. And a little segment that this evening is Tapology with Meter. Thanks, Meter. You're welcome. So, that being said, we will kick things off here talking about last week's UFC 326 card. Not nearly as good as a whole group as we were the week before, but still not too fucking shabby. Only one out of everybody in the whole group was under 500. And that was the person who themselves indeed tripped on their dick this week. And that was Christian here. Christian got 5 of 12 for 330 on a very weird card to pick. I agree. I was right down there with him with 6 for 375, holding the 500 line like I was the fucking last of the 300. Don got pretty fucking good. 7 out of 12. 8 out of 12. Galti, 7 out of 12, but 465 because he had lots of fucking good picks on that one. And then the champ up top, Donna, once again with 9 of 12 for 630 points last weekend. Well done, Donna. That brings our tally for our Spring Has Sprung VFE Grand Prix, rather, our tournament in the spring here. As of right now, I am currently sitting in last place with 23 of 39 correct for 1,480 points. Just 30 points ahead of me at 1510. Vindog the Booty Hog with 25 of 53 correct because he's already got this week's picks in. With 24 correct, just ahead of him by 50 points at 1560. Christian, just ahead of him by 65 points. Don with 1625. Just ahead of Don by, again, just, 45 points. Galti sitting in second place. And then starting to run away with the lead now with 28 correct so far, a score of 1,900 in first by 230 points already is Donna. So she is absolutely starting to put distance between her and the rest of us fucking losers. So we have all, as a group, except for you, Donna, got to get our shit together and make our picks a little fucking better for these next couple weeks, or she's going to really blow us all out of the fucking water. And then we're going to have to hire that fucking Maytag repairman. Wink, wink, wink. That being said, this card is probably going to be a tough one for everybody to call as well, just because of how strange it is. But that being said, we're going to take a walk over here and we're going to look at some of the odds for this week, because we don't encourage you to gamble, but if you're going to, do it educatedly. So we have got Bet Online for our odds this week, because that's the one that I looked at and liked the way their layout said on the website the most. So, as you would expect with an Apex card, it is pretty much coin flips all the way up and down the row here. But there are a couple of interesting, bigger odds, we'll say here. Andre Fili coming in as a plus 330 underdog against Jose Delgado as a minus 400 favorite. Kind of makes sense. I understand where that's coming from. Mick Oralby versus Chris Curtis. If that fight happens, they've got Oralby coming in as the minus 330 favorite and Curtis coming in as a plus 270 underdog. That's kind of the way I expect that to go. I will say I am a little curious. They have got Eric Anders coming in as a minus 105 favorite versus Tavares as a minus 115 favorite. So there is basically no way to make money on that fight. Vegas sees that that one's not going to be the best, and they're not giving anybody plus money to bet there. You're going to have to throw that one in a parlay to try and make any money off of it. That being said, the biggest odds on the card, probably not surprising if you've been listening to us talk about it here. Montserrat Rendon as a plus 575 underdog against Bea Mesquita coming in as a minus 800 favorite. Like I said, this one feels like a fucking softball. That being said, co-main event here. Jillian Robertson versus Amanda Lemos. They have got Lemos coming in as a plus 170 underdog versus Jillian as a minus 200 favorite. I think that's pretty right. I think those odds could actually probably be a little bigger, but it's leaning the right direction here. Lemos needs to pull a fucking rabbit's foot out of her ass to take this one away from Savage, I believe. And then our main event here. Josh Emmett coming in as a plus 400 underdog against a minus 550 Kevin Vallejos. Kind of what we all expect here. The old man is going to give up a fight, but even Vegas thinks that Vallejos is going to be able to get it done. So that being said, again, we're not encouraging you to gamble, but if you are going to gamble on combat sports, at least do so with the facts in mind and make an educated decision. That being said, that is about all we have got for this particular episode here. So first and foremost, if you are new, thank you for tuning in. We try and do the show pretty much every Thursday when there are fights to talk about that weekend. We try and go live around 9 p.m.-ish Central Standard Time, both on youtube.com/@I'mNoJoe and dual streamed to twitch.tv/I'mNoJoe. The replays get left up live. If you don't catch us while we are live, the replays get kept on both platforms as long as they are allowed to. If you miss the replay on purpose, I also understand that. We too own mirrors. So the week after we go live, we put the all audio version of the podcast up. Anchor.fm/I'mNoJoe. You can get it at your podcast consumption platform of choice. Google, Spotify, Apple, whatever you use to listen to shit. It goes up goes up over there for free, just the same as it is here on YouTube and Twitch. That being said, if you like what we get up to around here, first and foremost, make sure you're subscribed, turn your notifications on so you don't miss any of the shenanigans that we get up to around here. But if you really like what we get up to around here, patreon.com/I'mNoJoe is the best way to help us out. As little as $1 a month, as much as you are comfortable giving. A patron of any level, first and foremost, we put your name at the end of every broadcast on the channel to show everyone how fucking awesome you are in helping us out. But besides that, a patron of any level gets you access to the unaired and unairable content. All the crazy shit that got us kicked off of OnlyFans as a podcast, we let the patrons have as a thank you, as well as we now have Patreon exclusive content over there just for our supporters as well. That being said, when we wrap things up here Thursday night, that is not the end of the fun, because tomorrow and pretty much every Friday, this gentleman over here and his other half drop their podcast, the Slow Bake and Contemplate podcast, over on Spreaker.com slash Slow Bake and Contemplate, I believe. Links to the podcast and their socials and their channel over on the I'm No Joe Discord server, all in the description. Whether you are watching or listening to this, go click on it and tell them how damn good they're doing.
Appreciate you, brother. And even if he ain't with us, I hope him and the family will be doing well soon. Brother TJ, kicked some ass last weekend, raising some money for kids to get some bikes in need and shit. Anybody that showed up for that, good on you. Anybody that supported that, good on you. But the brother still has other ventures, so you make sure you continue to support that. Support the brother, show him some love, follow him on his social medias and whatnot. Everything he's got going on. Don't think the streams will be a regular basis after this, and don't get your hopes up. But I appreciate you for supporting that stream that he did this past weekend. But show the brother some love. All of his shit should be down in the description, and then the brother meter gets around to many damn things too. So if you get into the old cannabis or the whole herbs and whatnot, or you video games, some other things, you check out all the damn things the meter does, and the link tree slash meter does many things. Yeah, make sure you check his shit out too. So show the brothers love.
Thanks, sir. Much appreciated. Yeah, if you get into the Devil's Lettuce, Linktree / Meter Does Many Things will take you over to the other channel where we get up to all sorts of fun shit. And since March is my birthday month, there's literally every couple days there's something fun coming out over there. That being said, the other side of things, if you need more of the punchy, kicky goodness we provide you here, Linktree / I'm No Joe takes you to all of the things combat sports, punchy, kicky that we do over here just the same. Yes, thank you to everyone who showed up last weekend to help us. I think we raised almost $1,000 in like little under 3 hours, 2.5 hours last weekend to help get some bikes for kids who need it. If you missed that stream, the link to our fundraiser stream is going to be in the description of both the video and the audio. That fundraiser itself stays live for, I believe, 4 more weeks. I think it ends the first week of April. So if you've got a couple bucks to spare, click the fucking link. We're trying to get kids in need some bikes. Throw us a little change. We'd appreciate it. I'd rather you give that money than Patreon. If you've got to choose between the two, give the kids the money. We'll be here. We're trying to help kids out, goddammit. Links are in the description. Go down there, check all that shit out. Tell Golf T how awesome he is for helping us do this every fucking year. That being said, that is all we've got for this particular episode over here. So thank you again for tuning in. If you really like what we get up to around here, tell a friend. Help us grow this damn thing. But that is all we've got for this particular episode. So until next time, boys and girls, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kicks were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made us laugh.